Making spaceflight sustainable. How Scotland plans to achieve a sustainable space industry. Welcome to this short video on making space sustainable. How Scotland plans to achieve a sustainable space industry. I'm Ross Maynard. The UK is considered the most attractive destination in Europe to host commercial launch services. The long coastline and island location make Britain an excellent region for different types of launch services. And Scotland is the best place in the UK to reach in-demand satellite orbits with vertically launched rockets. At the same time, Scotland is one of the leading countries in the world in developing a sustainable approach to spaceflight. In this short video, I will explore how Scotland plans to achieve that elusive goal, a sustainable space industry. A strategy for space in Scotland. Space Scotland is the industry body, part funded by the Scottish Government, charged with building a major space industry in Scotland. Currently the space sector in Scotland is relatively small, worth around £350 million a year in 2018 prices, with around 8,000 jobs connected to the industry and 133 space organisations sited across the country. However, Scotland's location, with a large coastline, thinly spread population and clear skies giving access to prime satellite orbits, means there's great potential for growth. As well as the ideal location in Europe to launch satellites, Scotland has other advantages as a space hub. Scotland builds more small satellites than any other place in Europe. The creation of vertical launch spaceports is well advanced, with launches expected in 2024. I'll come back to spaceports later. Some of the leading research into sustainable spaceflight is based in Scotland. In October 2021, Space Scotland, in association with the Scottish Government and the Scottish Space Academic Forum, published the Strategy for Space in Scotland. The aim of the strategy is to build a flourishing space community in Scotland, combining industry, academia and government with a strong focus on sustainability. The strategy can be downloaded from the Space Scotland website in the resources section at spacescotland.org/resources. Scotland's space strategy is to focus on small, low-cost satellite platforms and payloads, rather than massive launch systems. Scotland is an international leader in the design, manufacture and management of small satellites, particularly in the widely used CubeSat form factor. Scotland also has a very strong data analytics sector and is home to some of the world's leading space researchers and academics, with particular strength in space sustainability. The strategy for space in Scotland covers 6 areas for action. To develop a space sector inward investment programme, to support Scottish-based space companies to build their international capacity and networks, to develop the Scottish space supply chain and position the country as the best place in Europe to launch satellites, to provide coordinated access to space facilities, capabilities and expertise for national and international clients, to make Scotland an easy place to deliver space programs, and to provide SMEs with affordable access to space facilities and expertise. To create a diverse space workforce and promote the value of ensuring equality of access and opportunity in the Scottish space sector. To position Scotland as a thought leader in taking a more sustainable approach to space activity, and to enable the sector to contribute towards the country's net zero ambitions. Towards a sustainable space industry, Scotland. Space sustainability, a roadmap for Scotland. The 2021 Strategy for Space in Scotland led to the development of the Space Sustainability Roadmap for Scotland in 2022. It was developed by Space Scotland with support from Scottish Enterprise. The Space Sustainability Roadmap can be downloaded from the Space Scotland website in the resources section, spacescotland.org/resources. Space sustainability, a roadmap for Space Scotland, aims to help Scotland play a leading role in demonstrating a sustainable approach to spacefaring. The roadmap lists 8 negative environmental impacts of spaceflight that need to be addressed in moving towards space sustainability. These are 1. Space debris, 2. Discarded rocket stages, 3. Satellite re-entry, 4. The construction of rockets, satellites and spaceports, 5. Supply chain logistics, 6. Rocket engines, because many rocket fuels are extremely toxic and damaging to the stratosphere, 7. Satellite operations and data processing, and 8. Contamination of dark skies by satellites and objects in orbit, including space junk. The document also outlines steps already taken. Space Hub Sutherland, which is one of several planned spaceports in Scotland, is aiming to be the world's greenest spaceport, fully carbon neutral and prioritising a sustainable approach to spaceflight. The development of less resource-intensive rocket propellants. Scottish company Skyrora has developed a fuel called EcoScene, which it claims to be environmentally friendly. I'll come back to that presently. The University of Strathclyde are developing StrathCube, a small satellite 10 cm by 10 cm by 20 cm for space debris detection, and a prototype for a future class of satellite. The Space Sustainability Roadmap has 3 goals for 2045. To achieve global recognition as a leader in space sustainability, to attain space debris neutrality for launches in Scotland, and to deliver net zero emissions for the space sector in Scotland. The document sets out detailed actions to work towards these goals and can be downloaded from the Space Scotland website in the Resources section, spacescotland.org/resources. Space City in Inverness has been created as a business park and virtual network for space companies. It has a strong focus on sustainable business. Follow the link to find out more. spacecityhq.com. Sustainable spaceflight research. Research into sustainable spaceflight. In 2012, the European Space Agency, ESA, established the Clean Space Initiative with the aim of minimizing the life cycle impacts of space activities. In 2016, ESA developed an environmental life cycle analysis for space technologies and have been working to improve this ever since. ESA's environmental life cycle analysis tool provides resources to assist mission developers to work to minimize the environmental impacts of the projects they're designing. From 2017, a team from the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, and from the Built Environment and Asset Management Centre, BEAM, Glasgow Caledonian University, have been working to expand ESA's framework to allow mission designers to conduct a full life cycle sustainability assessment. The new tool, called the Strathclyde Space Systems Database, SSSD, combines ESA's environmental life cycle analysis tool with models for social life cycle assessment and life cycle costing. Thus, the SSSD can be used to provide environmental, social and cost assessments for a space product, process or service over its entire life. For the first time, this allows the space industry to account for the environmental, social and economic life cycle impacts of projects or aspects of them. Validated by ESA in 2018, the SSSD has been used in the design of several space missions. More information on the Strathclyde Space Systems database can be found at the link shown. The research team have used the Strathclyde Space Systems database to model some scenarios on the environmental impacts of spaceflight. Their paper, Ecospheric Life Cycle Impacts of Annual Global Space Activities, published in Science of the Total Environment in 2022, concluded that the increasing intensity of space activity would soon have a significant environmental impact, particularly in 5 areas. 1. Air acidification due to releases of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and ammonia from the manufacture and combustion of launcher and spacecraft propellants. 2. Freshwater toxicity resulting from the release of chromium, copper, nickel, vanadium, and zinc into groundwater during the manufacture of spacecraft propellants. 3. Ozone depletion linked to emissions from the combustion of rocket propellants in the stratosphere. 4. The atmospheric warming effects of black carbon soot and aluminium oxide released into the upper layers of the atmosphere from the combustion of rocket propellant. And 5. Greenhouse gas emissions, mainly from electricity usage in manufacture. Environmentally friendly propellants. Environmentally friendly propellants. Many rocket fuels are highly toxic and damaging to the environment. Scotland is at the centre of development of a rocket fuel claimed to be environmentally friendly. Such claims should be taken with a pinch of salt, because the term green rocket fuel has been applied to propellants which are slightly less toxic than mainstream fuels, but can hardly be said to encourage biodiversity. Headquartered in Edinburgh, Skyrora is a company which designs, manufactures and deploys rockets for the launch of small satellites. Their website is at www.skyrora.com. The company is also behind the development of EcoScene, a synthetic oil derived from unrecyclable plastic waste. The website for that is at www.ecoscene.com. EcoScene uses a catalytic pyrolysis process to convert plastic waste into synthetic fuels, including a rocket fuel with similar characteristics to kerosene. The manufacturing process is claimed to create 70% less carbon emissions than traditional oil refining. 500 metric tons of plastic creates just under 400,000 litres of premium fuel, saving around 80,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide compared to the refining of oil. EcoScene has received a number of environmental awards. Kerosene is the most widely used rocket fuel. If EcoScene performs similarly to kerosene, then its combustion will create carbon dioxide and, perhaps more importantly, black soot in the stratosphere, which has an additional global warming effect. Nevertheless, the lower carbon footprint of its production would seem to be a step forward from fossil fuel-based kerosene. Other rocket fuels competing for the Green Fuel badge include liquid hydrogen, liquid methane, and biopropane. If manufactured from renewable sources, these have the potential to be less environmentally damaging than EcoScene. NASA is also developing a so-called green propellant called Ascent, although it's based on ammonium nitrate, which has environmentally damaging effects. Spaceports in the UK. Spaceports in Scotland. There are two types of rocket launch system for small satellites. The traditional vertical launch from the ground, and what's called horizontal launch from the underside of an aircraft in flight. 7 spaceports are proposed to be built in the UK. 3 of them are vertical launch spaceports, and these are all in Scotland, with 2 nearing completion. The remaining 4 spaceports would allow for horizontal launch. 2 of these are also in Scotland. Let's have a quick look at these 7 UK spaceports. Saxa Vord Spaceport is on Unst, the most northerly of the Shetland Islands. Construction is well advanced, and the site will include 3 vertical launch pads, a satellite control ground station, and payload processing facilities. The first launch from the site is planned for late 2023 in partnership with Lockheed Martin and ABL Space Systems. The website is saxavord.com. Space Hub Sutherland is located in the very north of mainland Scotland, near the village of Tongue. The site has a licence for 12 vertical launches per year, in partnership with the British space company Orbex. Construction began in May 2023. It's hoped that the first launch may take place in 2024. The aim is that its operation will be carbon neutral, although it's not clear how this will be achieved. Spaceport 1 is a vertical launch facility planned for the island of North Uist in the Western Isles in Scotland. Planning permission has been granted for 10 launches per year, but construction has not yet begun. It's hoped that the first launches of small satellites might be possible by early 2025. Spaceport Machrihanish is planned to be developed on a former military airbase near Campbelltown in Kintyre, Scotland. Used by Vulcan bombers during the Cold War, the 3,000-metre long runway was designated an emergency landing strip for the Space Shuttle in the 1990s and early 2000s, although it was never used by the Space Shuttle. Spaceport Machrihanish has been awarded £488,000 of government funding to develop facilities for the horizontal launch of small satellites. That is, launch from the underside of an aircraft in flight. This is a relatively small award of funds compared to the £31 million awarded to Space Hub Sutherland. If successful, facilities for vertical launch may be developed in the future. As well as the fantastically long runway, Machrihanish has the advantage of being well placed for launch into key orbits. Prestwick Spaceport has £80 million in funding to develop a horizontal launch facility at Glasgow Prestwick Airport, which is about 40 miles from the city of Glasgow. The first launches are planned to take place in 2024, and the aim is to be able to launch satellites up to 800 kilograms by 2035. Spaceport Snowdonia is planned for a Royal Air Force base in Gwynedd in Wales. Horizontal launches from aircraft may commence in 2025, and a vertical launch site may follow in the future. The aim is to provide a multidiscipline campus including research and training facilities for the space industry and a spaceflight experience and training facility. Spaceport Cornwall is the only spaceport planned in England and will be based at New Quay Airport in Cornwall, offering horizontal launch services. It's hoped that these will start in late 2024. Spaceport Cornwall was originally backed by Virgin Orbit, and in January 2023, Virgin Orbit attempted its first satellite launch from the site. The rocket failed, and with funds running out, the company filed for bankruptcy protection. Despite the loss of Virgin Orbit, Spaceport Cornwall is moving forward with its plans aiming to attract other launch services. It boasts impressive space data and space communication facilities, as well as strong academic links. The website is spaceportcornwall.com. Space law in the UK. The UK was the first country in Europe to put together new spaceflight laws. The Space Industry Act 2018 is considered the most modern space legislation in the world, with a focus on safety and the flexibility to support the pace of innovation. The UK-US Technology Safeguards Agreement, TSA, allows US companies to operate from UK spaceports and export space launch technology. And there we end this short video on the plans for a sustainable space industry in Scotland. Progress has been made, but there's a considerable way to go. Hopefully 2024 will see the first launches. Making the space industry sustainable is a significant challenge. We'll see how it progresses. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video interesting and that it helps you develop your interest in the space industry.